Hey folks, Red Badge of Courage, Chapter 17. Um, there was just a fight, and Henry and his regiment fought off the Confederates, but Henry acted sort of animalistic and very brave, continued firing at nothing even after the enemy left. So we're going to pick up here where we left off, Chapter 17. The tired men rested for some minutes, but during their pause, the struggle in the forest grew greater and greater until the ground seemed to shake from the rushing of other men. It seemed difficult to live in such a place. The chests of the men strained for fresh air, and their throats needed water. The youth's friend thought he remembered a stream nearby, and he was permitted to go for some water. Immediately, canteens were given to him. "Fill mine, will you?" "Bring me some, too." "And me, too." He departed, heavily loaded. The youth went with his friend, feeling a desire to throw his heated body into the stream and drink and drink. They made a hurried search for water, but did not find it. "None here," said the youth. They turned without delay and began to go back. A moment later, a general on horseback was directly in front of the two soldiers. Another officer, riding with the skill of a cowboy, moved his horse to a position directly in front of the general. The two unnoticed soldiers moved nearer to hear the conversation. Perhaps they thought some great things would be said. The general, whom the boys recognized as their commander, so the commander of their regiment or their division or whatever, looked at the officer and spoke coolly, without emotion. "The enemy is getting ready for another attack," he said. "I fear they'll break through there unless we manage to stop them." The other officer cursed his nervous horse and spoke. "It'll mean heavy losses," he said shortly. "I suppose so," remarked the general. Then he began to talk rapidly. The two young soldiers could hear nothing until finally he asked, "What troops can you use?" The officer thought for an instant. "Well," he said, "I had to order the 12th Regiment to help the 76th, and I haven't really got any extra troops. But there's a 304th. I didn't need them very much." The youth and his friend exchanged glances of surprise. That's his unit, of course. The general spoke sharply. "Get them ready, then. I'll watch developments from here and send you word when to start. It'll happen in 5 minutes." As the other officer started away, the general called after him in a serious voice. "I don't believe many of them will get back." With frightened faces, the youth and his companion hurried back to the line. Whoa, hold on, I gotta pause this and fix that. Alright, sorry. I think I fixed it. As the other officer started away, the general called after him in a serious voice. "I don't believe many of them will get back." With frightened faces, the youth and his companion hurried back to the line. These happenings had occupied an unbelievably short time, yet the youth felt they had made him old. New eyes were given to him, and the most surprising thing was to learn suddenly that he was very unimportant. That's what his mom said, like, back at the beginning. Of course, pause for a second here. He just heard the general essentially order his regiment into a suicide attack. Not many of them are going to get back. Uh, it's necessary, but, this is a sacrifice that he's willing to make of Henry and his entire regiment. So it's kind of earth-shattering news to him, and that's probably why he's having this moment of, I don't know, change or thought or whatever you want to call it. And the most surprising thing was to learn suddenly that he was very unimportant, considering how important and how self-focused he was through the rest of the story. I think that's an important line. The officer spoke of the regiment as he spoke of a brush. Some part of the forest needed sweeping, perhaps, and he merely indicated the brush in a tone properly uncaring about its fate. It was war, no doubt, but it appeared strange. As the two boys approached the line, the lieutenant saw them and became angry. "Fleming, Wilson, how long does it take you to get water? Where have you been?" But he stopped when he saw their eyes. "We're going to attack. We're going to attack," cried the youth's friend, hurrying with the news. "Attack," said the lieutenant. "Well, now, this is real fighting." Over his dirty face there went a proud smile. "Attack? Well, by God." A little group of soldiers surrounded the other two youths. I'm having trouble reading this morning. A little group of soldiers surrounded the two youths. "Are we really? Well, attack. What for? What at? Wilson, you're lying." His friend spoke. "No, he's not. He's not lying. We heard them talking." A moment later, the officers began to hurry among the men, pushing them into closer mass and into a better line. They were like men struggling with sheep. They were surrounded by the noises of war. The world was interested in other matters. The regiment had this small affair to itself. The youth, turning, gave a quick, inquiring glance at his friend. The latter returned to him the same kind of look. They were the only ones who possessed the information. Quote, heavy losses. Quote, don't believe many will get back. An awful secret. But they saw no hesitation in each other's faces, and they nodded in silent agreement when a man near them said in a small voice, we'll get eaten. So somebody put two and two together and realized this is going to be a very bad attack, for the regiment. But yeah, what are you going to do? General orders you to do something, you've got to go do it. So this is interesting because if there's a time for cowardice, right now is the time. You don't want to go into this sort of meat grinder attack against an enemy that you know is going to fail or whatever. I mean, like that just seems crazy. So if there's a time for him to run away, maybe now is it. But is he going to do it? Has he changed? What does Crane have in store for us? We're going to find out in chapter 18.